After King used Imperial to extend his head and shot it straight towards Zoro due to its high speed and proximity, Zoro couldn't dodge in time. It grazed the side of Zoro and pierced through the rocks behind. After this attack, Sandai Kitetsu's sword fell off the island. Zoro tried to hold onto the sword and remembered that Sandai Kitetsu was a cursed sword, the one he bought at the store and chose. It was also a sword forged by Hitetsu. When King saw Zoro desperately trying to retrieve his sword, he rushed towards Zoro and kicked him off the island. Luckily, Wado Ikemanji didn't fall off the island. Zoro remembered his promise to become the world's greatest swordsman after Kuina passed away. According to Hitetsu's story, Kuina's pure white sword was Wado Ikemanji, also forged by the same legendary blacksmith who created Enma, the legendary swordsmith Shimatsuki Kozaburo. Zoro didn't pay much attention to it before, but now he wondered why a sword from Wano ended up all the way in the East Blue. Zoro continued to fight King with his remaining two swords. King then fired energy beams at Zoro. Enma, which was nearby, emitted haki. He rushed to pick up Enma and used it to block King's attack. King's attack was so powerful that it caused the rooftop to collapse, and Zoro fell down. During the fall, Zoro remembered Momo's words not to say Sunachi, but he wasn't sure of its significance, as he had heard it from an old man in a village where he used to live. As Zoro recollected, the old man was Kuina's grandfather. During their conversation, Zoro learned that Sunachi was a battle cry that instilled courage in warriors. Zoro asked the old man if he was a samurai, to which the old man replied, "Watch your mouth, or the Marines might come for me." Zoro explained that he became disheartened with his training because he couldn't defeat Kuina and expressed his desire to borrow the two swords to train. The old man agreed. He told Zoro that when a blacksmith forges a sword, it should claim many lives, and a sword is meant for killing. He encouraged Zoro to take the swords and train. The old man further explained that each sword has its own unique identity, and a swordsman must tame the wild nature of the sword and bend it to their will. He drew one of the swords and said it's amusing that deadly swords are considered cursed. He considered them accolades from the weak-minded, and when he was young, he created a masterpiece, a sword that would make Zoro shudder when he held it. He named the Lord of Underworld, and it became known as Enma. At this moment, Zoro was still in a daze and recalled Kozaburo's words. Zoro began to realize that Kozaburo was a samurai who left Wano 50 years ago, and that he was from the same village as Zoro, Shimatsuki village. Zoro understood that it wasn't a coincidence, and he started to stand up, recognizing that Enma was testing him. Recalling, Odin could easily wield Enma before, but now it's draining his energy. It's not that it has ill intentions, but it's testing whether Zoro has the strength to use it or not. Zoro senses that Odin died a long time ago, but Odin's haki still emanates from Enma. Zoro wonders whether he should release all his haki to satisfy Enma, but if he releases strong haki suddenly, he might die. At this moment, when the soldiers see Zoro appearing weakened, they want to rush in to claim his head for rewards. To their surprise, Zoro surpasses his limits and unleashes his power, causing the soldiers behind to have their lips froth, and King is very surprised. It turns out that you also have Conqueror's haki. At this moment, Zoro recalls his first meeting with Luffy and how he vowed to become the world's greatest swordsman. The future pirate king will not accept a weak swordsman like that. Zoro says, "You must be right because I've made a promise to my captain and my first friend." Returning to the battle between Sanji and Queen, after Sanji kicks Queen away, he remembers the technology used by German in the war, which resulted in the deaths of many innocent people. When Sanji decides to destroy his transformation device, he punches himself in the chest and blames himself. At this point, Queen gets up and says that it's a pity that Sanji missed his chance. The Germa kids have strong bodies, and their personalities have been well adjusted. It's a waste to use his technology to crush them. Sanji's chance is gone, but before he dies, Queen will show him his true power. Then, Queen uses Sparking Queen to shoot laser beams from his eyes towards Sanji. Sanji is puzzled by how Queen can shoot laser beams from his eyes, similar to his Germa siblings. After that, Queen uses the gun on his arm, aiming it straight at Sanji. Meanwhile, inside the pleasure district of the castle, Awesome has found her lost mouse, but a stray bullet from Queen blows open a nearby door, prompting the girls to retreat deeper into the castle to avoid danger. However, Awesome's mouse gets lost again, and she decides to search for it, despite the danger. At this moment, Queen extends his mechanical neck and releases lightning bolts that strike Sanji, causing him great pain. Sanji realizes that this is also one of his siblings' techniques. Sanji dodged the laser beams from Queen's eyes, then leaped and delivered a kick towards Queen. However, Queen used his hand to block Sanji's attack. Queen taunted, "I know all the techniques of you guys, and I can replicate them. I plan to put on a show after you use the raid suit. I've been waiting for the moment when you put on the raid suit. That way, he'll see at once and for all that his technology is no match for me." Sanji replies that he doesn't care about Queen's grudge. Then, Queen uses his mechanical arm to catch Sanji, spins him around, and throws him straight into a wall. He lifts Sanji and says, "Does this move look familiar to you? You guys are his prized accomplishments. The finest work his has ever produced. If so, enjoy it. Without your raid suit, you're this pathetic." Queen concluded his words by holding Sanji up high and slamming him onto the floor. Suddenly, Sanji's legs burst into flames. Sanji said, "It's not over yet." He then delivered a powerful kick that broke Queen's mechanical arm. Queen was furious when he realized his arm was broken. Sanji stood up, clearly angry, and told Queen that he had warned him not to mention their names in front of him. Queen replied, "Who do you think you are to silence me? Even without the raid suit, I can still defeat you." Sanji's leg caught fire again, and he charged forward to deliver a strong kick to Queen's abdomen, sending him flying. However, Queen quickly got back on his feet, seemingly unaffected. Sanji remarked that perhaps Queen hadn't realized that the earlier attack was not in vain, as he was weakening. Queen retorted, "You forget that back in the hall, you ran away like a mouse." Sanji told him to laugh as much as he wanted, as he had accepted his fate, and he was no longer the same as he was back in the hall. Queen laughed and replied, "So, show me how different you are. Because refusing to become a cyborg with a heart of steel and stone means you won't defeat my technology." Sanji responded, "Maybe one day, I'll become a heartless monster, but for now, I just want to beat you." His legs were blazing with fire. Queen retorted, "Cut the nonsense. My technology is the most powerful. Weaklings like you can't defeat me." He then rushed towards Sanji, but suddenly, he vanished. Queen's voice echoed as he said, "Now I'll show you my technique, Stealth Black Dot." He reappeared behind Sanji, ready to strike. However, just as he was about to attack, Sanji also disappeared, much to Queen's surprise. Sanji relied on lightning-fast movements to become invisible, even without a cyborg suit. Queen assumed that when Sanji exhausted himself, he would reappear, and he planned to take advantage of that moment. He considered his current strategy foolish. Unexpectedly, a mouse ran across Queen's feet at this moment, and the girl chased after her lost mouse. Queen was furious that this girl, whom he had severely punished when searching for Sanji, was still alive. With Hiyori no longer around, Awesome had become his favorite, and he had repeatedly summoned her, only to be rejected every time. So, when he encountered Awesome, he became angry and wanted to take action against her right then and there. At this point, Sanji leaped onto the roof, full of anger. He thought that the power of Germa would change everything about him, but he could never forgive someone who had struck a woman in front of him. Just as Queen was approaching Awesome, Sanji charged down. Sanji realized that his skeletal frame, muscle power, and speed had been enhanced. If he combined them with his existing armament haki, his legs could withstand even more intense flames. Sanji's legs were now ablaze with blue flames, and he felt that the speed and power of this kick were on a different level. He vowed never to allow a man to strike a woman. He swiftly descended and delivered a powerful kick to Queen's head, surprising Awesome. Queen, taking this kick, became extremely angry. Sanji quickly grabbed the mouse and, despite Queen's attacks, jumped onto Queen's long arm. He then leaped, delivering a series of Basakode kicks and numerous other kicks to Queen, sending him flying. Yet, Queen remained undeterred. He approached and said, "Is that the power of Germa?" Sanji replied, "That name has nothing to do with me anymore." Suddenly, Queen realized that Sanji's power had evolved, and it would transform the essence of Sanji in the future. "You've always given up the Germa power, but you're still his son." Sanji recalled the words of his father and brothers, calling him trash. He faced his present self and said, "None of that changes who I am because I'm the #1 cook of the sea. No matter how I change, I'm still me." The visions disappeared, and Sanji saw his master and the Straw Hat crew waiting for him to run towards them. Once again, Sanji's leg burst into blue flames. Sanji declared that he still hadn't defeated Queen and that he would roast him. At this point, Queen, in his manic state, boasted, "I am the world's #1 scientist." He then fired numerous laser beams at Sanji, but Sanji swiftly evaded them all. Sanji then leaped high into the air and delivered a powerful kick, slamming Queen's head into the ground. Without hesitation, he followed it up with another powerful kick right to Queen's chest. This attack, engulfed in intense blue flames, sent Queen flying, crashing through walls, and ultimately out of Onigashima. Amid Awesome's astonishment, Sanji graciously returned her mouse. She was delighted to have found her missing mouse and thanked Sanji. Sanji, reflecting on his past, remembered a time from his childhood when he had also fed a mouse and had been told never to abandon her. Afterward, Sanji himself passed out, but he did so with a warm smile on his face. After Zoro used Conqueror's Haki to defeat the enemy soldiers, King expressed surprise that Zoro possessed Conqueror's Haki as well. However, he wasn't concerned, stating that Kaido would defeat Luffy, and Kaido was the true Pirate King. Following this, King sent a stream of fire towards Zoro, who managed to block it. The two of them then engaged in combat. Zoro swung his Enma sword at King's abdomen, but it didn't seem to have much effect. King transformed into a pteranodon and fired projectiles at Zoro, who skillfully evaded the attacks. Zoro realized that his regular attacks weren't making a dent on King. King lunged forward with his wings to attack Zoro, followed by transforming into a tornado. Zoro deftly blocked these attacks with his swords. He then leaped into the air and used a three-sword style technique, infusing it with Conqueror's Haki to strike King. The attack resulted in an explosion and caused King to bleed for the first time in his duel with Zoro. The attack also destroyed King's mask. Zoro explained that when King's flames on back was turned off, his speed increased, but his defense weakened. At this moment, the surviving enemy soldiers who had seen King's true face began discussing the truth, suggesting that King had a bounty of 100 million berries on his head from the world government for undisclosed reasons. However, before they could finish, King pointed his sword at them. Ignoring their pleas, King mercilessly attacked and killed the soldiers. Zoro, who was observing from the rooftop, commented that the castle had turned into a hellish place, and King's actions were not how one should treat their subordinates. Zoro suggested that King should focus on their battle rather than causing chaos. "I think the government is interested in your race. Do you want to explain something to me?" King removed his mask, destroyed the roof, and transformed into a dinosaur form. He said, "Why should I bother explaining anything to someone like you?" King rushed towards Zoro, using his wings to knock him down. Zoro got up and said, "I don't have much time left, so if we continue like this, my sword will kill me." King stood on a rocky platform and said, "I'm in the same situation. We're both approaching our limits." Zoro thought to himself that King's unique race wasn't so different from his own. He decided it was time to defeat King. King responded by saying, "Don't get too complacent. Lord Kaido is the true pirate king. If you think that, then you're as good as dead." He unleashed his Conqueror's Haki and initiated the three-sword style on a Jirai. Beams of Haki radiated out, causing the earth and rocks to scatter. However, King managed to fly and evade the attack. He began to recall his first encounter with Kaido in the prison. Kaido mentioned King's Lunarian heritage and how the government had subjected him to experiments to test his endurance. Kaido declared that he would leave this place and form his own pirate crew, asking King if he wanted to join. King hesitated and asked if Kaido truly believed he could change the world. Kaido, with a smile, declared that he was the only one who could achieve that, and King agreed to follow him. Kaido inquired about King's name, and he introduced himself as Arbor. Kaido insisted that you should call yourself King due to your immense strength, and he promised that he would never betray King. From that point on, King would be Kaido's right-hand man. After that, King unexpectedly shot his sword into a giant fire dragon straight towards Zoro. Zoro used his three swords to block it, and he recognized that the fire was similar to magma. Zoro felt that the fire on King's sword was starting to damage his own swords. Zoro said that he wouldn't let King take away his precious swords. Zoro unleashed more Haki, leaped back, but when Zoro had just landed on the ground, energy beams appeared, and King surprisingly rushed towards him. Zoro blocked and struck King, forcing him back. King's flame on back had ignited, and he charged at Zoro. Zoro was pushed back to the base of a mountain, and he leaped up with Haki, creating a powerful energy circle aimed at King, making the ground tremble. King blocked and used his sword to hurl Zoro against a rock wall. At this point, both were exhausted, so they decided to settle the match with a final blow. King flew into the sky, releasing all his power. He created fire circles centered around himself, angrily saying he would show Zoro his true strength. Zoro replied, "Then let's end it here." King fired an energy burst and unleashed hundreds of fire dragons at Zoro. Zoro charged forward, activated his Haki, and cut through all of King's fire dragons. Furious, King created a colossal flame dragon that charged straight at Zoro. Zoro continued to move forward and leaped onto rocky platforms, then rushed at the massive fire dragon. Zoro swung his sword, cutting through King's imperial flaming dragon into multiple sections. Seeing this, King released all his power, using the imperial flaming dragon to charge straight ahead. Zoro used the Demon King three-sword style, 100 Triad technique. Both of them rushed at the speed of light and collided, creating a tremendous explosion, and the Haki wave blew away the surrounding rocky mountains. Within the explosion, Zoro surprisingly emerged unscathed. The result of this powerful clash was that King's sword had broken, and his wings were severed by Zoro's attack. At this moment, King recalled Kaido's words, "Do you still believe in that tale? Do you think I'm Joy Boy? Is the world I create really the one you desire?" King replied, "Now it doesn't matter what you say. I owe you my life. Legends are just legends. As long as you become the strongest, I'll ensure I never lose to you until you become the Pirate King." As for Zoro, he believed he wouldn't lose until the day he defeated Mihawk to become the world's greatest swordsman. He declared that he would never lose and asked the Pirate King if he had any objections. Luffy laughed and said there was no problem. If this was the price to pay, then they would become the Demon King of the underworld. Zoro then swung his sword down towards the falling king, and with that, Kaido's right hand, King, was defeated. Zoro, exhausted, also lost consciousness. Kaido is panting and feeling angry for defeating Luffy unfairly, while Luffy is unconscious and has completely lost consciousness, then falls down below motionless. Momo feels that Luffy's breath has completely disappeared. The battle at the Onigashima Skull Dome belongs to Kaido. Kaido angrily looks towards the CP0 agent and asks, "Do you know what I just did?" He doesn't speak but only bows his head and clenches his fist, as if he knows he will die by doing so. Kaido holds his club covered in Conqueror's Haki and smashes it on top of the CP0 agent's head, causing the skull dome to explode and create a hole. The remaining agent realizes the situation and just pulls his hat down, then greets his teammates and leaves. Kaido looks at Luffy and remembers when they both unleashed their finishing blows together, then advances to where Luffy lies and shouts, "What the hell is this?" as if he can't accept this victory. Below, Kawamatsu instructs everyone to retreat because the ceiling is collapsing. Suddenly, they see Kaido in his dragon form coming down. He asks where Momo is, telling him to surrender quickly. It's such a boring outcome, the Straw Hats are dead. Everyone is shocked to hear this. Law also senses Luffy's breath disappearing with Haki. Tama can't believe that Luffy has died, so she cries uncontrollably. Nami also can't believe it and asserts that Luffy won't die. She angrily goes forward to challenge Kaido, shouting, "You damn lizard, Luffy dead? Don't spout those lies. When Luffy says he will definitely win, he won't ever lose. He won't die, it's nonsense." Upon hearing this, Kaido is very irritated and shoots a fireball towards Nami, but Marco manages to block it with his wings. Kaido says he will kill them all because they dared to provoke him. If they don't bring Momonosuke here, he won't stop. Kaido's subordinates are eager to kill Kid and Law, but their crew members are trying to protect their captain. Yamato is talking to Momo, expressing a strong desire to defeat Kaido, while Momo is scared and wants to surrender because Luffy lost again. Yamato declares that instead of surrendering, they should die together. Kaido is sweeping everything with his fire, and Boss Hyogoro hasn't given up hope, still expecting something from Luffy. Kid and Law are exhausted, fighting Kaido's troops and nearly getting killed. Nami is crying because she doesn't believe Luffy is dead and urges him to wake up to fulfill his promise. On top of the skull, Luffy's heart begins to beat again. Zunesha says to Momo, "It's truly nostalgic. I hear the drumbeat of freedom for the first time in 800 years. For sure, he is here. Joy Boy has returned." Luffy's heart is beating again. The drumbeat of freedom resounds everywhere. A Conqueror's Haki envelopes Luffy, and he sits up. Luffy staggers to his feet and wonders how he's still alive after losing once. When Zunesha mentions Luffy as Joy Boy, Yamato and Momo are very surprised and don't fully believe it. Luffy is dancing and releasing a large amount of Haki, causing the ground around him to explode. Sanji senses Luffy and wakes up, and with such an overwhelming Haki, everyone below on the performance stage with strong Haki can sense Luffy's return. Marco tells Nami and Tama that Luffy is still alive, making them cry tears of relief. Luffy's Conqueror's Haki is so powerful that it shoots straight up into the sky, making the sky clear and the moon reappear. At the Holy Land of Mary Geos, the 5 elders say they have sacrificed one of their best agents and angered Kaido. For the past 800 years, the world government has been trying to obtain the Gomu Gomu no Mi but has never succeeded, even once. It's as if this devil fruit is trying to escape from them. Speaking like this is not entirely wrong because Zoan-type devil fruits all have their own consciousness, and this one even bears the name of a god. The Gomu Gomu no Mi also has another name, the Hito Hito no Mi, which gives the owner a rubbery body, allowing them to fight according to their imagination and wear a smile on their face. It's known as the sun god Nika. Awakening enhances the strength of muscles and freedom in the rubbery body of the owner, making it the most ridiculous power in the world. On the second floor, in the treasure room, Orochi is trying to tempt Kamurasaki into pulling out a nail, claiming that he was manipulated by Kaido. But she is still very angry with Orochi, a cunning man who did not keep his promise and caused the country to suffer from famine. Orochi continues with sweet words, but Hiyori unmasks him and tells him to shut up. She intends to deal with him, but Kanjuro emerges with a tiny body and informs Orochi of his failure. Orochi sees an opportunity and orders the monster to burn Hiyori. But it goes in the wrong direction, causing him to burn and scream in pain. Meanwhile, Luffy is dancing to the cha-cha-cha music and can do whatever he wants. His heartbeat follows the drumbeat of freedom. This is Gear 5, the pinnacle of his power. The ground around him turns into rubber, allowing him to bounce continuously and laugh endlessly. The Conqueror's Haki continuously radiates down to the stage below, causing Kaido to panic as his soldiers collapse one by one. Luffy inflates his arms with air, then thrusts them beneath the stage floor and grabs Kaido, pulling him up to the amazement of everyone present. Luffy flexes his muscles and punches Kaido like a toy, then grabs his belly and spins him like a top, lifting him up, then slamming him down to make Kaido's head swell. Meanwhile, Luffy is lying there, laughing with joy. Kaido thanks Luffy for being alive, then shoots a fireball towards him. Lost in the moment and absorbed in the game, Luffy fails to dodge in time, so he tries to move back, and when there's no other option, he lifts the ground like rubber to cushion the blow. He then flexes his arm to redirect the attack back towards Kaido. turning Kaido into a roasted dragon. Luffy continues to laugh with joy. Luffy runs quickly towards Kaido, doing nothing but wearing a confident smile. Luffy bounces on the ground, using his ability to turn things around him into rubber. Kaido is surprised that Luffy not only survived but also awakened his devil fruit ability. However, it seems unusual because it doesn't resemble other paramecia types, it's a unique feature of a Zoan type. Kaido doesn't understand what's happening with Luffy's rubber fruit, so he flies towards him to swallow Luffy, while Luffy is still carefree and hasn't reacted yet. Luffy uses his muscular strength to flip Kaido's jaw, but it doesn't work, so he decides to explore Kaido's entire body, punching wherever he goes, causing Kaido to cry out. He then uses the rubber ball technique, making Kaido's body swell like a balloon. Momo and Yamato are flying up to witness the battle and are amazed to see Kaido getting fatter. Kaido doesn't understand what's happening because his body has turned into rubber as well. Luffy notices a glint in Kaido's eyes, so he reaches out with his hand to grasp it and then launches himself back outside. He gasps for breath and soars high into the sky. The sky is constantly flashing with thunder and lightning. Luffy emerges from above the clouds with a gigantic body, leaving Momo and Yamato utterly astonished, wondering if that's really Luffy. Kaido flies up and bites Luffy's hand, but Luffy to deliver a powerful punch. Afterward, Luffy uses Kaido's head and tail as a makeshift bungee cord, performing an incredibly bold jump. Kaido, furious, uses his dragon breath to shoot directly at Luffy, causing him almost turn into ashes. However, he quickly recovers and races through the sky towards Kaido. The situation below is still dire due to the raging fire, with Kid, Law, and everyone else still engaged in battle. The boss mentions that Luffy placed his hope in them, so they can't give up so easily. Returning to the battle, both of them charge at each other, but Luffy is slightly slower and gets a headbutt that sends him crashing through the stage floor, shocking everyone below. Luffy tries with all his might to lift his head back up, but Kaido believes he has reached his limit as he's panting heavily and smirks, thinking he's the ultimate victor. Luffy asserts that he'll never reach his limit, but as he finishes speaking, he starts to transform into an old man and collapses to the ground below. Kaido taunts him to peacefully embrace death. But Luffy, determined, struggles to get back up, saying he doesn't want that fate. Momo and Yamato recognize that this is indeed Luffy because his clothes have returned to normal. Luffy stands up and says, "We haven't finished this yet, have we, Momo, Tama, Kinemon?" then reactivates Gear 5. Kaido warns him that doing so will lead to his death, but Luffy confidently replies, "Do you really think I'm afraid?" Luffy's heart beats to the rhythm of the resounding drums of freedom all around. He grabs the ground and springs forward. Then he runs wildly ahead without noticing Kaido behind him, taking a club to the head, but his rubbery body makes his face look like a club itself. Luffy yells in pain but continues running, making Kaido even angrier as he takes another club to the head, but this time Luffy manages to deflect Kaido away using his rubberized ground. Now he can wield Conqueror's Haki and fight freely. Kaido tries another attack, but Luffy dodges it and manipulates the ground to bounce Kaido's strike back at him. Next, Luffy charges in and spins his arm like a propeller, denting Kaido's head. This move catches Kaido off guard, and he is sent flying 1,000 meters away, lying motionless. Luffy enjoys the moment and thinks of a name for his new move. Kaido gets up and asks Luffy who he is. Meanwhile, Zunisha comments that it has been a while, and this rhythm is like Joy Boy is truly here. It all feels like destiny, and they can't help but rely on that young lad. Luffy answers Kaido, saying, "I am Monkey D. Luffy, the one who will surpass you and become the Pirate King." Hearing this, Kaido acknowledges Luffy's unwavering confidence but regrets losing all of his subordinates and even the castle. He angrily charges at Luffy and unleashes a series of club strikes that send Luffy flying in pain. However, Luffy spins himself around and counterattacks with a barrage of punches, all landing on Kaido. But the flames have ignited above, and smoke fills the air. Kaido taunts, claiming that Luffy's crew will burn to death, but Luffy retorts, "Don't underestimate them. I trust them completely." Luffy rushed upward rapidly without paying attention to Kaido, and Kaido immediately delivered a slashing attack to him. Though it was a bit shocking, Luffy unconsciously stretched his leg to evade the strike. He then utilized the resilience of the ground to spring himself high into the sky. Meanwhile, Yamato was urging Momonosuke to generate even stronger clouds than Kaido's to support Onigashima, as it was on the verge of collapsing due to Kaido's exhaustion. In the midst of intense lightning above, Luffy seized the lightning bolts and hurled them as an attack towards Kaido. Luffy used his lightning-fast speed to assault Kaido in midair. Kaido was greatly surprised to see Luffy controlling the lightning. Luffy lunged at Kaido with a punch, then grabbed Kaido and threw him away. In midair, Luffy reappeared and pummeled Kaido to the ground. Luffy dashed towards Kaido once again, but this time Kaido countered by spewing flames that sent Luffy flying far away. Luffy maintained his grip on the lightning and extended it while soaring through the air. Both Luffy and Kaido generated a massive haki explosion. Luffy was sent flying and began gathering the lightning bolts before striking down on Kaido. Suddenly, Kaido reappeared from behind at an incredible speed and struck Luffy, sending him plummeting downward. Kaido continued his pursuit of Luffy amidst the lightning bolts. Kaido mentioned that merely possessing the powers of a devil fruit wasn't enough to conquer the seas. He emphasized that overwhelming strength could only be overcome with haki. Kaido launched a devastating haki-infused lightning attack on Luffy, creating a powerful shockwave. Below, people had started releasing sky lanterns, carrying their hopes, creating a beautiful sight in the sky. This scene resembled a celebration of some victory, whether it be for Luffy or Kaido. At this moment, Kaido was quite content with his recent haki attack, but he was taken aback when he realized that a hand was holding onto him. Kaido was slightly worried. Kaido transforms into his dragon form and then coils himself into a dragon spout with gusting wind blades, beams of light shooting up into the sky, injuring Luffy. From below, Kaido added a fireball to the attack, causing Luffy's body to be charred black, but his grip on Kaido remained unwavering. The lightning bolts began to explode, and a colossal fist descended from the sky, hundreds of thousands of times larger than Kaido, representing the fist of hope, of freedom. It was a gigantic, pitch-black haki-infused punch that covered the entire Onigashima. Luffy told Momo to quickly move Onigashima, or it would be crushed. Momo, in a panic, said to give him a moment, but then he realized he couldn't do it. Luffy in the sky declared, "Kaido, it's over," and Kaido responded, "Fine, I accept your challenge." Kaido spewed out scorching flames that forced Luffy to retract his hand and pant heavily. Kaido suggested that Luffy should give up, as there was no escape. Kaido's body began to ignite, forming a massive ring of fire. "Do you know, Luffy, that 20 years ago, the hero of this land was burned to death by me? This place has become a chaotic country. You are the hero they've been waiting for these 20 years. Kaido starts to twist his body and charges forward like a battle dragon. He threatens to make Luffy's right hand unable to strike anymore because he will vaporize it. Kaido waves his tail, causing one of Onagashima's horns to be severed and fall down below. Then, Kaido breathes fire towards Luffy. Luffy applies the haki that the boss Hyoguru had taught him. Now, Luffy will use a technique that allows him to attack without physical contact to punch Kaido straight down to hell for his redemption. In the sky, a giant arm and a fire dragon are fiercely colliding. The two streams of power clash, causing the sky to shake, and the tremors amplify like a nuclear bomb. Below, Usopp is unaware of what's happening, but the samurai cheer loudly, encouraging Luffy's spirit, urging him to defeat Kaido, the Straw Hat Grandmaster. In the sky, Kaido and Luffy continue their relentless battle. Momo is trying to create a fire cloud because the more Kaido attacks, the weaker the fire cloud becomes. Yamato encourages Momo to try harder to create the fire cloud, or else it won't be in time. Onigashima is falling freely because Kaido's flame clouds are disappearing, and the entire island is spinning in the air. In the last desperate situation, Momo finally explodes, creating his own fire cloud. Above, Kaido and Luffy are still continuously attacking each other. Below, everyone has witnessed Luffy and Kaido's battle. Kaido threatens to kill all of Luffy's comrades above, making Luffy furious. Kaido asks Luffy how he wants to create a world, and Luffy thinks about Tama, then punches Kaido, sending him flying. Both of them continue to clash, with the people below serving as a source of spiritual strength that propels Luffy to victory. Luffy says his dream is to create a world where his friends can eat until they're full. At this moment, their fists collide. Kaido tries to resist, but against Luffy's buffed-up strength, Kaido is defeated and plummets uncontrollably into the depths below. Kaido's pit runs parallel to Big Mom's pit, both of them deep into the heart of Onigashima. After Luffy defeated Kaido, he was falling due to exhaustion, and Yamato rushed over to catch him. She looked at him and smiled happily. Meanwhile, Momo was lying exhausted from carrying the Onigashima island earlier. Nekomamushi was very pleased to witness this scene, as he hadn't seen a lantern festival like this in a very long time. He used the Den Mushi to inform everyone below that Luffy had defeated Kaido and fallen into a deep pit in the earth. Onigashima had stopped falling, thanks to Momonosuke transforming into a dragon to stop it. Everyone was surprised to learn that the pink dragon was actually Momonosuke. Nekomamushi joyfully declared that it had been 20 years since the revenge battle began on the day Lord Odin sacrificed himself. They had won, and they had defeated 2 of the 4 emperors. Everyone cheered and celebrated their victory. Thank you for watching the video, and don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell to receive updates when the channel releases new videos.